Welcome to another episode of Tangled Rights. This is episode
35.
We're still here. My name's Justin Wilson. That's Shane.
Justin's getting over his sickness, and I didn't know it affected his attitude until right now.
I'm fine. Shut up.
Second episode of 2025. We're still here. We're still rolling. We still got legal stuff to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
We got some fun stuff today. I've done most of the research as normal in a week. I do most of the research and
I
everything.
send you cool stuff on Instagram.
You do. Hey, look at this, Shane. And one of those we'll talk about today.
Yeah, because it was insane.
But you were out. You're just our local criminal legal expert. So
Ooh,
I
wow.
will
Drop the E word there.
present these to you.
Local criminal legal qualified attorney, we'll call it.
Yeah. Well, we both appear in criminal court more than we want to sometimes.
I like criminal court.
It is fun. I was out in Henderson 4 times this week, though. So
You had to go to court 4 times in a week?
Henderson, though.
Oh.
I had to drive all the way to Henderson. I moved away from Henderson. So, all right. Well, before we get into anything, we're going to have a message from our sponsor. Hey, Tangled Rights listeners. In today's digital world, we're all spending more time online, whether it's shopping, banking, or just connecting with friends. But have you ever stopped to think about how safe your personal information really is? That's where today's sponsor, Aura, comes in. Aura is a comprehensive online safety solution that protects you from identity theft, data breaches, and even unwanted surveillance. With Aura, you can monitor your credit, track your personal information, and get real-time alerts if something suspicious happens, all from one easy-to-use app. Not only that, Aura helps protect your family with tools like parental controls and fraud protection. Plus, if the worst does happen, their dedicated team of experts is ready to help you recover, giving you peace of mind wherever you go. Don't let your online life put you at risk. Protect your personal information and feel safe while you enjoy everything the internet has to offer. Click the link in the description below or visit aura.com/tangledrights and get a 14-day free trial to see how easy it is to stay safe online.
Make sure you protect yourselves. I actually just, literally before this podcast, got some weird email where it's some kind of like phishing attempt where it said, or what did it say? It said it would be better to call, and it listed my fucking cell phone number, which sucks, and then, or go to, and it listed my old address. But we can do this online. And it said that they'd accessed my computer and like got it in my camera and recorded me doing something. And it was like, pay me $2,000 in Bitcoin or else. So you never know what kind of dumb shit people are going to do. Hey. So it's good to have, because I'm sure that they just access that through like a public record search or something.
There's so much out there publicly.
But that's the issue.
When we sue people,
right? That means
we kind of do these public requests and search for you.
Personal phone. They had this one.
You just had a picture of your kid on there.
Uh-oh. He's much bigger than that now. And
your other...
My other...
Adopted brother.
Hasbullah. I have a tattoo of him on my leg.
Yes.
Actually, Austin, I'll text you a picture of it. We're putting that in right here.
Make a note, Austin.
It's such a good tattoo.
Shout
out at Kip Jones Who, a.k.a. Lil Tatty, aged in Oak, Sunset and Pecos, for all your tattoo needs. And he didn't even pay me for that. I pay him for that. He's so good.
He's good. Yeah, okay. All right.
Anyway.
No tattoos here.
But protect yourselves online. It's fucking stupid out there.
It is. And when we go to serve somebody with a copy of a complaint, which we do many occasions when we sue people civilly.
You've been served.
There's so much information out there about you. So they know your last 10 addresses, where you live currently.
And we're not even talking like girl level, quasi FBI Google searching. We're talking just 2 dudes here, right?
Yeah. Well, we do it a little bit, but there's skip traces, you know, services that we pay $150 and we'll find out, everywhere you lived, all your family members, there's a lot out there. So
I also found out that you can pay on the dark web like $80 and get address, social security number, date of birth, all the, like, one of my fraud guys was telling me like how easy it is.
Let's clarify there.
Fraud guys, sorry, fraud clients.
One of our clients,
the
criminal defendants, who's accused of fraud and might know some things.
He pled guilty, and he was a track client. He was one of the ones that I didn't. He was kind of a jerk.
There's a history.
Yeah. But anyway, he was like, "Oh no, it's super easy. You do this, and you can get the basic info for like $20, which is like name, address. But if you want date of birth, social, place of birth, all that stuff, it's $80." And some Russian hacker will just give it to them. They do it on, you bitch. Austin just held up money.
Are we going to do it?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's a felony, bro. Plus, like, I don't know. There are some crimes that like really irk me. You know, crimes that I want to slap the shit out of people for.
You got personal,
Yeah.
stuff going on with your grandma, right?
Yeah, I'd family members get duped because they're old and easy to dupe.
Yeah.
And it just really irks the shit out of me, man. And it's like, it'd be different if like somebody takes advantage of me. Like if I was stupid enough to click that link, I'm 38 years old. I probably kind of deserve it, because I'm an idiot. I'm not saying that people should commit crimes, but if you trick an old person or a person who's not intelligent, like let's say they're disabled of some sort intellectually,
Yeah.
that's who they're fucking picking on, dude. They're not picking on you and me.
And I absolutely hate it because I'm such a cynic now for anyone that approaches you that they're gonna, try and steal or take something from you or take your time, and you have to be on guard at all times, and it just kind of sucks to walk around like that.
Yeah, it hardens your heart,
Yeah.
right?
No, for sure.
And it sucks to be that way. You're right.
But part of being a business owner is like that because there's a lot of people that try and take advantage of our services and say that they're going to pay us and don't, and
And then as soon as you form a business like that one company, the military based marketing company,
yeah,
they're like, oh, we service veteran-owned companies, yada yada yada. We provide veteran services to people who are in the military from companies that are operated by veterans. And it's like, oh, that sounds like a great deal. No, $450 a month for nothing. And then they stopped billing me. They stopped billing us. And so I just thought it was over. They waited till the contract was done and then they submitted it to collections. So I hit the collections company up and I was like, bro, you might want to look into this. And I haven't heard a peep since. So they paused it. Obviously, when you have a collections issue, there's like a time frame where you can either pay it off and it won't hit your credit, or if you dispute it, they will do an investigation.
Proof, yeah.
And so I disputed it in writing, and then they started their investigation. I haven't heard anything back yet. But like all the people that I used to talk to, I went through my old emails, which this is one good thing if you do anything like online and you have something like this pop up in the future, always keep good records. I have subfolders on subfolders. Every communication I ever had with those douchebags. And I called every number I had. I sent emails to everyone and they all got kicked back. I was like, nah, there's something weird going on here. And I provided them proof with everything. So hopefully it gets dropped off, but it's just like everybody that you meet is trying to take money from you. It's like we're the Sharks and they're the Remoras.
And Austin taking our money to produce the podcast too.
Yeah.
But you get something every week out of it.
We get to see Austin's beautiful
We do.
face. I don't think we talked about this one too much before, so I'll present it to you. Quentin Nixon, okay? Quentin Nixon. He lives in Akron, Ohio,
Okay.
which is just outside of Cleveland.
Cleveland is the city where Bone Thugs come from.
Yeah. So Akron is also where the #1 basketball player of all time, debatably, LeBron James is from.
James Naismith?
LeBron James.
Dr. James Naismith?
LeBron James is
okay.
from Akron, Ohio. He talks about that
Does he?
a lot, yes.
He is pretty good at basketball.
He played for the Cleveland Cavaliers, which is right there too. Huh. It's right by Cleveland. Won a championship with them. So
He's pretty damn good at
left,
basketball.
came back. He just turned 40, and this guy's still
Crushing it.
crushing it.
Basketball
it
is
is
one of those
impressive.
sports, though. Like, you can have a longer career.
Not like baseball, but yeah.
No, I mean, baseball's way higher. But
Like usually there's a statistical, there's all these stat geeks that kind of track stuff, but when you hit 38, 39, 40, you start to tank. He's like Tom Brady, I guess, not really going down all that much. So very impressive career that he's had.
just don't take any helicopter rides.
LeBron, sheesh. Ugh, okay.
Cut that part, then.
No, I mean it is true. Yeah,
It's true.
Yeah, especially in
That's-
bad weather.
Well, and also, like,
There was an investigation into
Kobe.
his death, and yeah.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying, like, Kobe, LeBron, people that have done a lot of good things for the communities they come from.
Yeah.
They're, underserved, whatever. And then they get all that stuff cut short because of some kind of just a strange decision. Like, why do you need to ride a helicopter around the city you live in? Just drive.
I don't know. Leonard Skinner band, like one of your favorite
so,
bands, right?
So many. No, my dad's like my dad.
Buddy
told
Holly,
me,
like, it's
my
crazy.
dad had tickets to see them right after they crashed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was going to see him when I believe it was in Europe. He bitched at me about it one time when I was a kid. because we were talking about concerts. And he's like, I didn't get to see it. I was like, all right, whatever, man. I don't know. But anyway, it's like, why would you do something that's unnecessarily reckless?
I mean, driving is just, you always have a risk of being
Sure,
harmed
but
or dying, and just
Helicopters,
driving.
do you know what happens when they crash?
Not good things. Not good things.
No, bad things.
Yeah, especially in bad weather like that. But there was some. There's
user
probably
error.
some negligence by the pilot there.
Yeah,
but
pilot. Anyway,
we got off track. We're back in Akron, Ohio. Quentin Nixon. Okay.
Focused.
Quentin Nixon.
What did he do or allegedly do?
He admitted that he did it. He pulled a trigger and killed a girl. Okay. All right. Quentin Nixon is on trial for murder.
Okay.
Okay. So Quentin Nixon does two things that we would never advise.
Oh, shoot. I just looked it up.
He waives his right to counsel and represents himself, and he waives his right to a jury trial in front of a jury of his peers. Don't represent yourself. We should have a mug made. Don't waive your right to a jury trial.
Yeah. Well,
In a self-defense aspect. Aspect.
yeah, the judge is never going to believe you.
So it was. We don't like to get into race here because legality is that's not a factor that should ever be considered. But we'd be lying if it's not something that plays on the minds of decision makers, juries.
Sure.
Always a factor. He's a black defendant, victim's white, judge is white, prosecutor is black. One of the two prosecutors is black, the kind of main prosecutor in this case, and his standby counsel is black. Okay. Not that adds to anything, but paints the picture, I guess.
Sure.
So, Quentin Nixon is involved, we'll say, with some shady characters. He ends up at a party at a trap house. Okay, define a trap house for some of our listeners that don't know what a trap house is, Justin.
A place where narcotics are sold.
Yes. Okay. Not ever in good areas.
That's not true.
They can be in good areas. Okay. Akron, Ohio has a lot of sketchy areas. There's accusations made that Quentin is high on meth. Meth is the drug of choice, I guess, and in this get together, at least at this time. There's a group of people that
Casual
Quentin,
meth party.
yeah, Quentin doesn't really know these people too well.
It'd be more like this.
It's late at night. It's late at night between 1:30 to 2:30 in the morning.
So they're all still extremely high.
They're high on meth, and before I got too much into criminal defense, I didn't know the effects of some drugs. What does meth do to you, Justin? What?
So meth,
not you specifically, but
meth is an
generic,
amphetamine. It's going to induce feelings of euphoria. You're going to be sped up, so you're going to have increased perspiration, respiration, heart rate. You're gonna get kind of erratic. Mm-hmm. And initially, that's not like necessarily bad. It's just you can't stay on track. Like you want to, and then talk about this song, and then let's go. Have you watched that movie? And it's just all over the place.
It's a get up and go drug.
It's a get up and go drug. It's very similar to Adderall in its effects. The issue is at a point you can induce psychosis from it. So you hit that glass pipe too many times.
It affects your sleep, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So a lot of times you'll be driving down the road and you'll see somebody yelling at a like a stoplight or something.
Yes.
It's probably one of two things. Either they've smoked a good amount and they've gotten into that psychosis stage, or they've been up so long that they're hallucinating and they don't know which way is up.
Okay.
Because, like I talked to a guy just the other day and he said he went from using on the weekends, like Friday and Saturday, he'd use at night to do stuff, whatever, to where he'd use before work. He'd come home at lunch and he'd use after work, to where he was literally using all day. And so at some point you're going to get into
the body needs sleep.
It turns out you have to recharge in a lot of ways.
And even 1 or 2 hours of sleep nightly over the period of
not enough
weeks is not enough. And
and your mind is like,
yeah, it's going. So Quentin Nixon is accused of this from the prosecution. The thing is, Quentin Nixon isn't found right after he pulls the trigger. He flees the scene. Okay. So information comes out. They put out a reward. Eventually his name is implicated in this, and it's found out that, he's a shooter. He claims that it was in self-defense, since he didn't know the people around him, that they were going to attack him, that the decedent, we say decedent, okay?
That means dead person.
I'll interject here. Criminal defense attorneys don't like using the word victim because that word is loaded that this person is innocent, okay? So a lot of times you'll find us use words that lessen, like decedent. Decedent means the dead person. So that doesn't call them a victim because he's saying that she caused this. So he's saying that, he's more of the victim in this sense. So we use this kind of plain language decedent. That the decedent took out a firearm and put it on the table, okay? He testified in narrative form that he believed that he was going to get jumped, that he was going to be attacked, he was going to be robbed, and potentially, with that gun on the table, had a fear for his life, okay? So that's his story throughout. His opening statement, I took a minute of it, and Austin's going to interject that here just so that our listeners can hear what Quentin sounds like, okay? So we'll put that in now.
I'm not a violent person. I'm not a monster. This wasn't planned. This wasn't calculated. This was self-defense. I was being jumped and beaten. For what reason? Maybe it was because I was dealing with the woman whose home it was, and her ex-boyfriend was there. I don't know. You can never start the situation if you don't have a weapon. That's all, Your Honor.
Thank you.
All right, I had Justin watch that for the first time. That was part of the opening statement. It kind of mirrored what his testimony was as well. I'll make a few comments here, okay?
Okay.
Quentin didn't bring a weapon to this situation. He didn't bring the weapon. He ended up fighting over this gun with the girl, and she ended up getting shot. Her boyfriend at the time testified that he just kind of stood by. So that was curious.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, that is very weird. A couple things in this trial that were super interesting is because it's a bench trial, not a jury trial, the trial got paused for about a month. And so this just happened October and November of 2024. So this is recent. I had this on our list to talk about for a while, but wanted to give ourselves time to talk about it. So opening statements back in October. Trial is paused for about a month, and then he picks up his testimony in November when the defense brings its case. And then they do closings, and then he gets convicted. I'll tell you that. He gets convicted. Because it's a bench trial, the entire time, as you'll see here, he's in his orange jumpsuit.
Yeah,
He's in his orange jumpsuit because the judge... We have this idea that the jury can be biased, and they'd be biased by how a criminal defendant looks, but that a judge is somehow immune from bias and will not take any stock in, the criminal defendant wearing a jumpsuit. So they're not allowed to wear normal clothes. That might have been a request. I don't know if that's a request or not, or even if he understood that he could have made that request. Or not, because he's self-represented. You'll see during the trial that he does consult with his standby counsel. Sure. He talks to him a bit, and if you're not put in the lead, I guess there's only so much you can do in advising somebody on how to ask questions, how to pick apart a witness.
Yeah.
We've talked about standby counsel before. We'll mention it here again. If you do want to represent yourself, you can. Our Nevada Supreme Court, we had a recent decision on that I sent you. You can represent yourself. There's the old adage that the person who represents himself as a fool for a client.
I had to turn the other way. I'm looking at mine, not his. My bad. Whatever. Don't do it. That's stupid.
Just don't. Even attorneys hire attorneys to represent them.
Absolutely.
So
when Shane gets arrested, he's going to hire somebody else.
Yes, I'll hire somebody. Because you'll be a co-defendant. I would guess. I'm hopeful
I'm
anyway.
not doing whatever stupid shit you're into.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
I'm a law-abiding citizen.
So interesting aspect number one is he's wearing the jumpsuit. He's kind of testifying and giving his opening from a seated position. You don't get into the theatrics as much, I guess, in a bench trial. I think you should, because judges are humans too. They get persuaded by certain things.
The issue there is that there's a safety thing.
No, he was allowed to. He was allowed to.
Oh,
the judge specifically said right before, you may stand if you want. The prosecutor had stood at the podium, and the judge even, told him. He was very respectful.
You just don't want a Holthus situation, I think, is what people are worried.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are always police, plainclothes officers,
Sure.
within a courtroom.
Well, in this, it's a bench trial.
And it's a bench trial.
You can have them all over the place. Who cares?
The entire video, there's a bailiff standing, right behind him. But the judge offered him the opportunity to stand up. I think you have to play into the theatrics a little bit of a trial, even if it is a bench trial.
Yeah.
Because I don't think judges are immune from. I think even a judge seeing him in that jumpsuit could alter her mind. Because this is one I think could have been close, and I think could have been a not guilty with the right counsel or with a good attorney or in front of a jury. You get one juror that thinks not guilty, that changes the whole thing. So we heard in his opening statement what his kind of story was going to be, and that's what it was at the trial when he testified. He did some cross-examination himself. He did not beat into any witnesses too hard or hard enough. He did a bit because he questioned the officer. There's some other people who were involved in having firearms that shouldn't. Why aren't they being prosecuted? So he did a little bit of that, but at the end of the day, the judge just ended up not believing his version of the events, that he was really fearful for his life, and that's why he shot. But no other explanation, I guess, really makes sense. I watched most of his testimony.
Didn't you say that she came with the gun and they start fighting and he gets the gun from her?
That's the story. Like, this
is
is all
what everybody agrees to,
This
at least
is all
that
a story.
part?
No, because they're all her friends, her boyfriend.
What did they say?
What did they say?
Old boy just starts attacking her for no reason and everyone just stood and watched?
Bullshit. I didn't watch all that. But that is the theme. That yes, she's the innocent. The name of the trial, these always get like names on these court websites. One of the ones is Mom's Mysterious Murder Trial, because it is a mystery and she was a mother. And the other one is Medical Assistant Murder Trial, because she was a medical assistant. As if that holds some weight. Sometimes they'll do that for victims or decedents. They'll try and paint a picture. The prosecution will say this is a wonderful person that had done nothing wrong and she would never put anyone in danger, even though she's in a trap house. Everybody kind of agrees. She's smoking meth. She has a gun.
And a medical assistant.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing that I think that when you go to a judge, a bench trial, that you skip out on is that stuff points both directions, right? Whereas if it's a bench trial, you're only going to get, kind of one travel lane.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's the risk you run there.
Well, this one just hurts my soul, because I see, as an attorney, I think that this guy could have gotten away, scot-free on this.
Could have gotten away with murder.
Not getting away with murder, but have his self-defense defense asserted properly,
his rights
argued,
protected, and have the state meet their burden.
Because if he is fearful for his life and has imminent fear for his harm, he is allowed.
And
he is allowed to shoot someone.
It's pretty solid evidence if it turns out that girl had the gun.
She brought it. Yes.
She brought it, and then he manages to get it. How would that happen? But for some kind of a struggle or something. And why would you be struggling? Let's say he just attacks her out of nowhere. Why do her friends just sit around? Doesn't make any sense, especially her boyfriend.
Yeah.
That being said, if everybody's doing it, the gun falls out of her pocket, and then he shoots her with it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
And I'll tell you, he was respectful through all the video clips I watched. He was very respectful to the court. She called him out on hearsay because hearsay is complicated, and he was saying some things. Oh, this other person said this, and she said, "Well, you can't talk about that, Mr. Nixon." And he's like, "Well, okay, what can I talk about?" Like, he did it in a very respectful manner. I'm just trying to paint this picture. The kind of calm demeanor that he had in that opening statement was the same throughout his testimony. And we talked about testifying by narrative. He's just going and telling his story. Because he doesn't have an attorney, so he just goes there and talks and tells his story for an hour and a half. You know, he told his story, and then he gets cross-examined because if you waive your Fifth Amendment, you know, you're going to get questioned by the prosecution too. You can't just get up and tell your story and then sit down.
But in a self-defense, you have to do that.
In a self-defense, it's very likely that he would have had to testify anyway. In this case, the one kind of difficult thing to deal with is he doesn't turn himself in, you know, after it happens, which kind of can cut against a self-defense argument a little bit. But why would anybody, you know, want to throw themselves at the feet of the police when they know this is a likely result as well? So he looks different too at the trial than he does kind of right after the murder. He's tattooed.
Wait a minute. You mean when he's sitting in jail?
No, well,
eating regularly and not smoking meth, he looks different.
Well, here's the
after
problem
2
too.
years?
Here's the problem too.
He gained weight. He was much bigger.
I'll touch on this too. There were some inconsistent statements he made, which anybody, you know, he was taken from his house by SWAT.
I saw.
And he had
AR-15 and a shotgun on him.
He had which doesn't matter. The judge knows that is the problem, and a jury would never, ever hear anything like that.
Right, and that's not what they're there for.
That's a problem. So the judge is tainted with that. But there's some chemical agents they put on him to, you know, kind of get him out. And so there's some effects that he has when he's being questioned. You can see that he's still like, you know, kind of has stuff on his face.
Like the CS cast him or something?
To subdue him. I don't remember what the chemical stuff was that they put, but I don't know if it's, you know, they put a little robot in and spray him with something to kind of get him subdued or what. But when he's questioned, that's what he says is in his opening and his testimony. I gave these inconsistent statements because, you know, I was all out of sorts. I had this chemical thing going on, and that's why, you know, I wasn't fully honest. But today's the true story. That's always tough to hear. Juries will pick on a little thing. A judge will pick on a little thing too to blow it into something big. But you have to put yourself in the shoes of that person to really understand. This guy has a problem, right? Like I don't think he's gonna say that he didn't have some kind of drug issues, hanging out with the wrong crowd, something like that, getting himself in a situation like that. But I just saw this as such a winnable case for this guy, and unfortunately, he ends up getting sentenced to life in prison, possibility of parole after 21, 23 years, something like that, something in the 20s.
21.
He's 33 at the time, so potentially could be getting out 54, 55 years old. But most people don't even get out on their first go around.
Yeah, you don't make your first board, especially in a murder case.
So
and I saw he's also listed as a violent offender, so he'll have to register.
Well, it's a shooting. Yeah, that's a violent
every year
act.
for 10 years. Or there's some weird law in Ohio, so he's cooked on that.
Yeah. So just some really interesting aspects here of don't waive your right to an attorney. It's not the same as having your attorney cross-examine. We are trained in that. We've done that more than you. And we know how to get information out of people a little bit better or how to have them trip over their words a little bit more.
And cross-examination is not about telling the truth or getting the true story out. It's about cross-examining. You can tell the truth, and I can cross-examine you into a way that it's going to make it sound like it's a completely different deal than what you're telling me.
What was that quote we had from
I don't remember.
It was something about cross-examination is the crux of criminal law or something like that.
Whatever.
So cross-examination, super important. He did well on his testimony. Like the comments that I saw that Washam said, I believe him. I believe his version of the story. So if you think that that's what people, you know, on these YouTube comments are seeing, who
They would have been your jury.
They would have been your jury. You know, a judge who might be facing re-election, who doesn't want to put
A murderer back on the street.
a murderer on the street, a murderer meth head, that she'd be accused of in a re-election campaign.
What murder?
So let's think these things through. I don't know what his standby counsel told him, but
Obviously not enough.
I don't waive your right to a jury trial unless
not.
you really know, unless you're certain that you should. And don't waive your right to counsel. I think that's the number one. Don't waive your right to an attorney. Don't represent yourself. There's a Nevada Supreme Court that told us that is a right that a judge didn't respect, so they're going to have to do another trial, and a guy's going to represent himself now instead of having his attorney represent him. So he got convicted of murder before, but the judge didn't allow him to represent himself, so he's going to be able to represent himself or possibly get a new attorney, right?
Does he get a second bite at the apple with a different attorney though? If he chooses to go on, he's like, nah, you're right. I should get an attorney.
He might be able to, but we'll see on that one. That's a local thing that, guy looks guilty. He had an attorney and he was convicted anyway. But
Weren't there some IAC issues there though?
oh, what issues?
IAC, ineffective assistance of counsel.
Yeah. We didn't see the trial.
I didn't read the whole
transcript.
opinion, but I saw something that
That's what he asserted anyway, but
and also that doesn't mean that the counsel was actually ineffective. Because like I had cases where that one where that kid shot the other guy in the parking lot and it was on video, and there was a construction worker across the street that watched him shoot the guy, run, drop his sandal, come back and get it, and then run into a house. And when the cops get there 3 minutes later, he's like, yeah, they ran into that house. And then the cops go get him from that house, and I get him a deal where he avoided the attempt murder ×3, which would have been pretty serious. And we get a 3 to 8, which is not bad on that. Like he's got
3 years shooting 3 people, huh?
he only hit one.
Yeah, okay. Well,
Shooting at 3 people, but he only hit one. And he's all excited. He's like, look, this is great, and it's sometimes it's just damage control. When the evidence is so bad, what are you going to do?
Yes.
Well, and I told him the whole time, like, this isn't a probationable thing, but some jailhouse lawyer told him, oh, you're young enough, even though you shot somebody, if you had a right to argue, you'd get probation. And so he wanted a right to argue. I talked to the DA. I was like, hey, he wants to do right to argue. The best case scenario, he gets probation. Worst case, he ends up with a 4 to 10 instead of a 3 to 8. You want an extra year on him? Because you're going to get it. Like I was going to do my job, but when you shoot somebody, that's a difficult thing, especially when you start the argument.
I'd take that 3 to 8. I'm risk averse.
Right. Well, this kid wanted to roll the dice.
I know.
'Cause it's only an extra year. And then whenever the DA was like, no, we're sticking with the 3 to 8, he wanted to withdraw his plea. And so then he goes and tells him, oh, he never told me that it'd be 3 to 8. And it's like, bro, you got canvassed by the judge.
What ended up happening?
He gets Almasi when Almasi was still a track attorney. It's funny because it had just happened before on that other one. Almasi filed a motion. The kid threw me under the bus saying that I lied and all this other stuff. And I went to the hearings and I was like, okay, man, I'm listening. I actually went and talked to him in the gallery. I was like, dude, I read your motion and your affidavit. Like, none of that shit's true. And he's like, I know. And I'm like, okay. As long as man to man, you'll tell me you're just trying to do whatever for yourself. I'm like, all right, whatever. And so then the judge checked and she's like, yeah, well, I canvassed you. So I told you on the record, so I don't find that this is accurate. And he got his motion denied. He ended up with a 3 to 8, which is ultimately going to end up being better for him.
Yeah.
But still,
that's what his family wanted too.
But the point being, the motion said that I didn't do things that I absolutely did do. So it's like, who knows what
and it's
is
fine.
going on in this
like
one.
whenever there's an appeal that's going to happen, there's going to be an ineffective assistance of counsel claim.
But I also don't fault him for it. Like,
No.
if you can get a
Self-preservation-
second bite at the apple, go for it, buddy.
Self-preservation always reigns supreme.
Yes. And my ego is not that big.
I
Unlike the song Big Egos by Dr. Dre.
think we have time for this. I wanted to talk about Serial episode 1, Serial season 1.
25 minutes left?
Serial season 1, I just finished watching. There's some recent news on it, and that's why I'm 10 years behind here. I watched the story of Adnan Syed. I'll tell you about it. So also in Baltimore, another tough city.
Baltimore sucks. Did you see that video of that raccoon that was high on fentanyl? No, because Baltimore's got a real bad fentanyl problem. It made the rounds, and this guy's like, "Oh man, even the raccoons are on the fetty." And he's sitting there, and he's like froze. He's doing he's slumping. was like, what the fuck? The animals are eating fentanyl in Baltimore? What's going on? I'll see if I can find the video and send it to you. It is wild. Did you see it?
I think so, yeah.
That's fucking crazy, dude. I was like, Jesus Christ.
I was born in the area of Baltimore. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
My dad was stationed.
Is that why you're addicted to fentanyl?
Yes, yeah, that is the reason. Yes. I'll plug the hat now because it comes into the next story. But in the Baltimore area is Fort Meade, where my dad was stationed when I was born. And this is Bowie Bay Sox, who this season are changing their name to the Chesapeake Bay Sox. Okay, but the Bowie Bay Sox, and this is a red hat with a black bill with a sandwich on it, which is a. Do you know what kind of sandwich that is?
Hoagie.
A pit beef.
Oh.
Okay. Which is roast beef with raw onions and horseradish sauce.
That sounds horrible.
It's like Maryland's version of barbecue. Okay. That just
terrible.
looks like a disgusting sandwich.
Why is
doesn't
New
it?
England as having as shitty food as regular England?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, isn't the point of being an American we're allowed to have good food?
I don't know. We'll have to ask Brandon from Vegas if there's anywhere to get a pit beef sandwich in town.
I'm not fucking eating
but
one.
I have like 4 or 5 hats from Bowie because
How many hats do you have?
I have over 100.
Do you have like a room?
No, I have a purple box. My goal long term is to get a room, display them, and my Legos. I like Legos too. All right, cool. Shane Cox is a cool guy. Not a loser at all. Okay.
I didn't say any of that.
So within the city of Baltimore, 1999 is when this story is. High school students, Adnan Syed. He is a American-born Palestinian family, a Muslim, that comes from a Muslim family. He's dating a Korean girl, okay? They on again, off again. She goes missing. Her body's found eventually at a park, kind of in a shallow grave. And a kind of acquaintance, slight friend of Adnan, says that Adnan told him that he was going to kill her, and he showed him the body in his trunk, and he helped him go bury the body in this park. Okay, that's the story. This case captures, Serial season 1 kind of captures everyone's mind. It becomes a big story. I don't hear about it because I'm not. I guess I don't listen to these kind of things, but listen to it this year, and I was kind of captivated by the story a little bit. Because it comes into a criminal trial. There is an allegation of ineffective assistance of counsel there, which was interesting to me. They kind of put together money and hire kind of a really good Baltimore area attorney, a female who does both of the trials because there's a mistrial because a jury hears something that's stated accidentally. They weren't close enough, that white noise didn't really cancel out the voice.
Sometimes it doesn't, man. I don't know how many times I've seen someone talking and they just start talking loud.
Yeah. So that's the first trial, and then second trial happens as well. Some of the testimony is different between the two. And in Serial, if you guys have never listened, it's a fantastic kind of.
They do a good job.
They do a deep dive into the stories that they do, and this is the first big one where it captivates the audience to know if Adnan really committed this crime or not, because there's no physical DNA evidence. Really, most of what it is this other acquaintance's testimony against it, and some cell phone tower stuff from 1999, which is completely different than what it is today. The analysis of the ineffective assistance of counsel coming from the reporter was kind of insane to me, because she put on a defense and she did, like, all the snippets that you hear. She did a really good job. She was very passionate, but there was a potential alibi witness was the issue that she didn't look into enough, was kind of the ineffective kind of argument.
Kind of ineffective?
Well,
you're accused of murder, bro.
It's a high school student, and there's some inconsistencies about whether it was snowing, because it wasn't actually snowing the day of the murder. So she kind of says that there's some weird things she says where it looks like she might be just trying to get the attention of Adnan instead of actually being a witness, that she's kind of does this as a flirty thing. So the first judge that hears this decides that, oh no, this was just a kind of a choice she made to not go down that route, because it's not going to really help him, because he didn't remember where he was that day. He doesn't say any time that he remembers being at the place where the alibi witness says that he was. Yeah, I know.
No, I'm reading something else.
What aspect of it? So,
what am I reading?
yeah.
That not only did the defense attorney not do something, apparently there were 2 other suspects who were, quote, not properly scrutinized.
So that doesn't even come out. So this is a long history on this one, since from 1999.
Isn't Baltimore like one of the most corrupt cities? Like it's one that's got Freddie Gray. It's like several police killings. Like I'm pretty sure like several of their mayors, chiefs, would you fucking stop? Have been arrested. Like
so when this comes out, the other witnesses, this is when a new prosecutor looks into the case and says, "Hey, we have some issues. We didn't disclose this, okay?" So guess what they do? They make a motion, the prosecutor's office, saying, "We didn't prosecute this properly. We didn't provide potentially exculpatory evidence to the defense
Brady violation
of these other 2." They said, we believe we did a Brady violation. Okay. So the prosecution does that. They file that motion. It goes up. It gets vacated for a little bit. There's some victim reporting stuff that might have violated a statute. So
yeah, they're supposed to tell the family of the victim.
But they didn't. So
no,
this,
I saw it. So they didn't get a right to say something.
This is all kind of up in the air. It's all kind of a complex situation. The most recent thing, a month ago,
I'm reading it right now.
They changed the law. Okay, Maryland changed the law and said if you commit a violent crime at under 18, there should be a cap of 20 years on your sentence. Okay, so Adnan was sentenced before this.
Yeah, he was arrested at 17.
He was arrested at 17. Crime happens allegedly when he's 17. Whether it happened or not, I don't know.
Here's this. It says DNA from Lee's shoes. Her body was found with evidence of strangulation, was re-examined with more contemporary technology, and excluded Syed as a suspect, prosecutors have said. So maybe he didn't do it.
Maybe he didn't.
Because the prosecutor...
Maybe he did. I don't know. I'm not going to...
I know a few prosecutors. Used to be one myself. I don't know too many of them that said, we'd exclude him as a suspect if they didn't think he fucking didn't do it.
Well,
that's crazy.
Well, there's public outcry too. So, how do you... Well,
it sounds like...
How do you really know
I wonder if the real reason they didn't tell the brother is because everybody screwed this thing up from all angles and they just want it to go away.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they want...
And this is looked at in 1999 standards, which are completely different,
1999.
When they're looking at the cell phone stuff, it's kind of... They screwed the pooch on that too. Are you going to answer that?
No, I'm just sick of people fucking calling me.
Do you know what Do Not Disturb is?
I just put it on.
Okay. All right.
I do now.
My phones are constantly ringing, dude.
So the ineffective
man about town.
The ineffective assistance of counsel is even the reason I wanted to bring this up, in the fact that it was based on her, like she used to be the top all-star, and she was her health was deteriorating because the job. Our career is a tough career. You get a lot of stress from people placed on you that are in their worst place of their lives.
I don't.
You don't
stress.
You don't feel that. Never. Okay.
I never lash out at the people I work with or get angry.
Oh gosh.
Oh, shut up.
It's good because those are the best attorneys though. This is what you need in a criminal defense
you
attorney.
need someone who actually gives a
who
shit.
actually fights and fights and fights and won't give up. So
and will abuse
it's hard.
their coworkers and partners because they're frustrated.
Yes, but I honestly feel like we're fighting the good fight for some people.
Yeah.
For some people. Like Adnan, he deserves a fight. And Quentin Nixon, he deserved a fight because he had a chance. He had a chance of being acquitted for that.
Of having
he
the
had
prosecution
a chance. And
be held to their burden.
Adnan had a chance of being acquitted. Whether I think he actually did it doesn't matter because it has to be proved beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yep.
And there was no physical evidence. There was a lot of problems. There was some inconsistent statements.
Apparently
there was a ton
there is physical evidence that excludes him.
It could be, it doesn't.
However,
There
the
could
one
be
thing
other
that you
things,
didn't
right?
mention is that I guess, and I read this in the article I just read. So the backstory is that he was dating this girl, but they felt like their families were too culturally far apart. She's Korean, he's Palestinian.
Yes, and he wasn't supposed to date.
They were keeping it quiet. Then they
Yes.
break up. She's seeing somebody else.
Yes,
There's your motive.
there is a motive. Yes, definitely there's a motive. There were definitely things against him. He did ask her for a ride that day. and said his car was broken, even though it wasn't. So means and motive, opportunity. There are things there, you know.
Yeah.
That
I'm gonna
definitely
actually listen to this
implicate him.
podcast. I never listened to the first
You should.
version.
No, it's
I
good.
only ever listened to Bergdahl.
Yeah,
Fuck that guy.
We won't talk about season 2 podcast of
Not unless
Serial,
I want to
but
get angry.
season 1. Maybe we'll revisit after you hear some things and want to.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
The ineffective assistance of counsel I thought was interesting because they're basing it on kind of her standard, which is up here. You could get an attorney that's down here and gives their best, and you know might not have even been
Well, the standard
what she
is
was.
for a Strickland claim. It's that it
And Strickland is a case that defines ineffective assistance of counsel.
it's that it would have affected the outcome,
Yes.
and that they didn't do it.
Yep.
Right. So it's not only they screwed something up, but it would have changed things.
Yeah. And
And
that's
that's very subjective.
and that is subjective, and the judge is
Judges.
shaking a magic 8 ball sometimes and saying, well, first it goes to the trial judge, right? And then it got appealed, and that was one of the first steps in this whole thing. And then recently he's just trying to get the conviction, gone anyway because he served a lot
Well, they
of time for
reinstated
it.
the conviction.
Yeah, well, a month ago, he's filing based on this new statute saying if you commit a crime under 18, you can,
Right. Well,
only
his
serve
whole
20.
thing is that he got it vacated and then reinstated, and he's out right now.
He's out right now, but on house arrest. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
And they're worried that they're going to take him back in at any time. But then,
Yeah.
like, the Innocence Project is working with him. There's a bunch of moving parts here. But dude, this is so messy.
this is messy.
Like, there's no way that this resolves. I mean,
Not everyone's going to be happy.
Well, not everybody, but most people are probably going to be unhappy here.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to look like a dickhead.
So talking about Baltimore area, bad police. Okay, we'll go to the Bowie. We'll go to the Pit Beef. My Bowie Bay Sox. This one you sent me. A cop who doesn't have good eyes, doesn't have a good brain. Austin, insert
Should not have been
video
a police
here.
officer.
Recording.
Two 1076 F.
Go ahead.
BM 197 southbound on the 50 bridge. How you doing? You know her? You here to help her? Are you here to help her?
Nah, she taking me to the hospital.
Come here. You got a gun.
What I do? What I do?
You got a gun.
I don't have a gun. I don't have a gun.
What did you do?
210. 210. Saw me another unit.
What did you do? Why did you do that? Why did you do that?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Why would you do that? He just was getting his head on the side of the road.
210. Saw me fireboard.
So what you guys just saw is a
Insanity.
cop that passes a car that's parked where it shouldn't be, right in the middle of a road.
I think it was on, like,
kind
the
of in the
shoulder.
beginning of a left turn, but
Yeah.
not somewhere they should be. If you guys go back and see, there's the man on the right side of the cop across the street. Cop does the U-turn, comes back to talk to the car, and this man comes back, white cop, black guy. I guess we opened up the race can of worms here.
Yeah,
so
let's go ahead
Let's
and
talk about
let's
it.
do
This
that.
one very quiet.
Well,
last week
now
of
we are
December.
back to 0 listeners.
Now we're canceled. Okay, but hey, call him like you see him. White cop for some reason. I don't think he's making it up. I think he must see it because why else would he do
No,
this?
what it was is the guy had his hand in his jacket.
He did.
Yeah, he had his hand inside of
okay.
his jacket. But that doesn't.
So for you audio listeners, we'll paint the picture a little better. The cop comes and saying, "Hey, are you helping this lady?"
Well, first, hold on. So
'Cause
he
the
does the
car's-
U-turn. He
car
pulls up
stopped in the
behind
middle of the
him.
road.
He says something on the body cam, on the radio. He gets out. As he gets out, the dude who was further down the road, the other direction, comes past him towards the seemingly disabled vehicle. So he's not in the vehicle. He's coming from behind it. The cop addresses him and says, hey, do you know her? And are you trying to help her? And he says, yeah, she's taking me to the hospital.
He's kind of ignoring the cop at the same
he was just
time.
like trying to get to the vehicle or whatever.
She's taking me to the hospital.
And he had his right hand, it looked like tucked, his jacket was unzipped and it looked like it was kind of inside of his jacket.
And he's saying, I'm getting her hat or something. There was a hat on the ground
And
or
he had
something.
something in his, like a hat in his hand or something like that, or like a plastic bag or something, I'm not sure. And he pulled over at 47 seconds and then he'd shot him by 1:03.
Yeah.
So it was 16 seconds. He shoots him in the back
And he says,
as he's like walking away.
but he immediately says,
He's got a gun.
he's got a gun. So the cop, for some reason, he's on edge or something. I don't
Austin,
know.
I'm going to send you a clip. They're coming right for us from South Park. And that's what you're going to put in here.
My God, it's coming right for us.
So for whatever reason, he shoots him, and then another thing people are questioning is as soon as he shoots him, he calls for backup instead of calling for an ambulance. He turns the guy over when he's on the ground.
The best part to me is the lady gets out, and this is not good. It's just like it shows this guy's he's out of his mind, like he doesn't know what he's doing. She's like, "Why would you do that?" He puts both of his hands in the air and just, "I'm sorry, and he's like walking around, and it's like
He doesn't
you
call for
shouldn't
an
be a police
ambulance.
officer.
He doesn't call for an ambulance at that point. Doesn't start to render aid or anything like that. He turns over the guy that got shot on the ground and sees he doesn't have a weapon, and the guy says, "I don't have a gun," and he sees that there's nothing there, and then he kind of freaks out and he says, "I'm sorry," like 3 or 4 times in there, as you guys heard. He's being charged with attempt murder because he shot somebody for what reason we don't know, what he saw in his brain, what he's trained to see to be in a position to be ready to pull the trigger. He does just shoot him once, right? It was just
one shot. I don't care. He shot him in the back, bro.
I'm glad it's not more. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, it does seem like a lot of times they kind of just dump the mag.
Yeah. So that's 2 in 2 weeks that we're wondering what the cop sees. Last week in San Antonio where the guy's holding a burger, and then this week where he kind of has his hand in his shirt, I guess. I didn't even see that.
Like, look, if I'm going to use deadly force and it's the same standard, I have to reasonably anticipate an imminent
Oh yeah, you're not getting
grievous
away from
bodily
that.
harm or death.
Yeah.
Right? And that means like, so if I walk past somebody in Walmart and I'm open carrying like a moron and I have my hand near my weapon, does that mean they can pull their gun and shoot me? Fuck no. So let's say he did have a gun and it was tucked into his waistband and his hand was near it. They weren't fighting.
It doesn't matter.
It's not like he was trying to apprehend the guy. And I'm assuming, what state was it?
This is Maryland.
Is Maryland open carry?
I don't know. They're pretty
Let's
liberal,
look it up.
so maybe not.
Let's see. Open carry is technically legal in Maryland without a permit, but is not common, and law enforcement may stop and question someone.
Yeah, I can see that.
So it is legal.
It's legal, but yeah, there's going to be a big asterisk because
Whatever.
Maryland hates guns. Not that I'll put this out there. I'm not saying that the guy that got shot did anything wrong, but I'm wondering if he does anything different, does that change the encounter? Like,
Well, sure.
because he kind of ignores him a little bit. Does the cop like feel he's not being respected? Like, no, when I come talk to you, you have to talk to me, kind of thing.
I don't see that. Having watched it, I don't see that's where it was. To
It
me,
was
it's
so
like,
fast, so I don't.
No, it's like
so hard.
It's literally 16 seconds. But to me, it seemed more like he, in his mind, oh, this guy's trying to hurt that person, and just shoots him. Like, oh, this black man approaching a vehicle, he must be going to commit a crime. It's more like that
instead
to
of
me.
well,
He's not respect my authority.
his assumption must be that they're together because that's
Two
his,
South Park references.
that's his question. That's his
Sure.
question is,
But-
are you helping her because she's in a stopped car?
Right.
Is her car broken down and you're there to help
Did you
her?
have to go like call somebody or something?
And he doesn't do any quick movements like he's trying to
no, he's
turn
literally
around
just
and shoot
continuing.
him.
He didn't even
He was just
break
walking
stride. He
with
just
his-
kept going towards the door.
I just don't
But
get it.
okay, so here's the thing. It's weird because you do not have an obligation to stop and talk to them. You don't. The cop was not legally detaining him.
Yeah. I mean, he
since
could have
he's with the obstruction and shit.
he
Sure,
could have
maybe.
started a traffic stop
Sure.
for whatever they're
That still wouldn't
doing.
have been on him.
I agree.
That being said, in all practicality, are you legally allowed to do what you did? Sure. But what should you do whenever you're walking up and the cop's like, hey, oh yeah, I just stopped and grabbed the hat. Okay, cool. See ya.
That should have been the end of the encounter. Yes.
Yeah.
But
Barney Fife, keep your hand off your gun.
it's more than Barney Fife because this guy, it's not just
I know, but
being
that's
an
like
idiot, but
the stereotypical joke that people make.
I get you. Okay. We're about out of time, right? Listener question. Listener question time.
Listener question.
This one comes from our good friend, Robert Condell. His question is, when do lawyers get paid with personal injury cases? Do I have to pay up front? Are consultations free? Is he just trying to be like, hey, talk about your guys' business and
No.
you'll get.
So
We'll answer those in reverse order. Are consultations free? Yes.
some people don't charge them or don't let them. Do not do consultations free. Kind of like I don't do English very well.
It depends
sometimes.
on the kind of case. For personal
Yeah.
injury, yes, we'll talk to people who may or may not have a case just to feel it out.
Beyond that, like we've had a couple of cases where they tell us a sequence of events that means it's like kind of a 50-50 where they could have a case and they could have a not case, or they could not have a case. Jesus, what's wrong with me? And we'll look into it or even sign them to do some research to figure it out. And then but we tell them up front, hey,
You may or
this
may
is
not
a
have case.
50-50.
Yeah.
We could find out in a week we have to drop you because we can't help you.
Yeah.
So it's more than just the free consultation.
free-
Sometimes it's free investigation as
Free
well.
consultations, yes, we offer those. Most law firms you'll see offer that.
Yeah, that's not special.
Do you have to pay up front? No. Okay, so the bar has told lawyers that we can represent people for personal injury cases on an hourly basis or a contingency basis. Most times you'll see all the ads in Las Vegas and probably wherever you're listening from in the United States that no money down, you don't pay anything until we win. Personal injury can depend on the state, but most times it's contingency fee cases because most people don't have $10,000 to drop on a retainer for an attorney, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, whatever it is.
Especially
It can always be an option. And
after they've been physically injured and probably can't work
Yeah.
and don't have a car anymore.
Exactly. So I don't think I've ever had a single client who has opted or wanted.
I've never even
To
had someone
pay-
ask.
I had a recent one this week where it's quasi personal injury where that might be what we want to do. I'll tell you about it after.
Sure.
It was interesting. But most times it's contingency. So what contingency means is you pay nothing down and the lawyer will take a percentage of what they get for you. So in personal injury cases, we get money, usually from insurance companies. Okay. And we'll take a percentage of that. And there's kind of standard rates depending on what kind of cases there are in town, which Uber is trying to change and kind of affect our livelihood. But that's a topic for another day. Please don't vote for Uber's
Well,
initiative.
vote for what you want to vote for, but just make sure you're informed.
Yeah, that's true.
What I will say with the Uber thing is that they are packaging it in a way that to get the signatures was misleading.
Yes.
They're not telling the whole story. They're telling the story that they want people to hear it, which is complete bullshit.
Because Uber wants to pay out less for injury claims.
They don't want to get sued as much. And if you take away the lawyer's ability to earn anything on the cases, then they're not going to take them anymore. And then you're not going to have people that are going to help people who are injured.
Yeah.
Pure and simple.
So
Meanwhile, I have a guy today we talked about when I tell him what he's going to be getting, how much we cut our fee and like what we did to help him out. He's literally said it's going to change his family's life. Obviously, lawyers are the devil. Look at us.
It depends. Yeah. Insurance companies typically don't want to pay people
I'm going to hold you down, Austin, and sweat on you.
So you can pay us hourly if you want.
We're fine with that.
We'll put that out there. But
Totally cool.
contingency
But
is
you have to pay up
usually-
front.
Yeah, you have to pay up
That
front.
means I don't have to wait 2 years to be able to pay my mortgage.
So contingency cases are typically how personal injury cases go. Means we get paid at the end of the case. So we are waiting to get paid, just like you are. We are invested with you because we want to get paid,
because
just like you do.
we believe in you.
Yes. So Robert, if you have an issue, let us know.
We got you, dog.
It would be at the end of the case when
Yep.
we settle with the insurance company and we agree on the percentage we're getting. the doctors we're paying, the costs that we have. So
All the things.
we figured that out with you, and we pay that at the end of the case. Okay? So, questions, comments, concerns? Write them in. Thanks for listening to another episode. Rights enthusiasts, rights enjoyers, rights
love my
fans.
Especially that one. Just got a new shotgun this week. Super excited.
Right to trial by jury.
Right to A300, semi-automatic, 7-in-1.
Right to a
send.
representation by an attorney. Don't waive it.
No.
Don't waive it.
And
Don't talk to cops.
don't speak to the Polizei.
Peace.